1 year of being intentional got me an Olympic gold medal. Just one, music, year. Just 1 year. Just 1 year. So, a lot can happen in a year. Shelley and music, Fraser Price is one of the greatest athletes the world has ever seen. Music, and she's going to tell you from the very first word she speaks. You are not supposed, music, to be average. What you're about to learn is going to help you turn your dreams, music, into reality. I became a mom and I won a world championship 2 years after having my son. Time will honor your greatness. Visualization is something, music, that you use in your training. How do you use it on a Friday? Music, yes. When we train, we actually train our minds on a Friday. We call it mental training. 'Cause before you can achieve anything, you have to see it in your mind first. Visualization is you putting yourself in a winning position before you have one. Visualization is something that you don't have to pay for. You don't need money for it. You just need to sit with yourself and see it. Music, that presentation, that hard conversation, that relationship that you probably need to end, that friendship that you need to walk away from and you don't know how to do it in your mind first. It becomes easier after. What has losing and, music, failure taught you that winning never could? Failure tells you how. Failure tells you how. How? Yeah. Because when you fail, you realize, okay, then the next thing is I am so glad you're here. This episode with Shelley Lay and is extraordinary. But before we jump into it and how you build an unstoppable mindset, my team was showing me this. 53% of you who watch the Mel Robbins podcast here on YouTube are not subscribers. Here's the deal. If that subscribe button is lit up, it means you're not a subscriber. My goal is to get that number to 50%. If you love what we're doing here, it would be amazing for you to just hit subscribe. It's the best way to show us that you love the show, you love these extraordinary experts that we're bringing on like Shelley Ann today to be your personal coach, and that way you're not going to miss a thing. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for hitting subscribe. Thank you for being here on YouTube. Now, let's jump into how you build an unstoppable mindset with Shelley and Fraser Price. You're going to love this. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for traveling all this way. I am so excited to learn from you. You have this energy that is infectious. I feel like I'm in a stadium. Yes. Of fans that are celebrating. You have an effervescence to you that is contagious. Thank you. Is that what makes you run so fast? Laughter. I wish it was so easy. Well, I'm glad you're here because we're going to be talking a lot about mindset. And I have a feeling that you're also about to teach us a lot of wisdom about something deeper than mindset. Yeah. Correct. And I'd love to start by having you speak directly to the person who's with us right now. And they may be feeling overwhelmed or full of self-doubt or feeling like they're too old or too young or worried about everybody else's opinion. MHM. If they take everything to heart that you're about to teach us from your remarkable life so far, what could there be that could change about their life? Well, Mel, here's what I would say for me personally. Growing up in Kingston in Waterhouse, I had to decide. And I think that's the most important thing I would say to anyone that's listening is to decide. Is to say to yourself, I want to move from a place of average to a place of excellence. I've always been taught that I have to be and become extraordinary. And in order to be and become extraordinary, you have to decide in your mind what is it that you're going to hold on to. What is it that you're going to tell yourself? And you have to really commit to the positive and encouraging things that you tell yourself, because that's the only way you're going to move from average to great. So that's what I would say. Decide who you want to be. Decide on just where you want to end up in next 5-10 years, and every morning that you get up you decide to put one foot in front of the other and say I'm going to be great. I'm going to be extraordinary. I'm going to be excellent. 'Cause that's the only way. The minute you change your mindset is the minute you start to tap into that unfiltered raw truth, strength, boldness that we all carry. Okay, my hair is already standing on end. And as you're listening to Shelley Lay and you're speaking with such a level of intention, like you believe this. Yeah, I do. And you have to. You have to. But I can tell that shit's about to go down and clears throat and laughter, this conversation. The energy is crackly. And I want to start by asking this question about the outside versus the inside, because people see all the medals, all the records. We not only see the confidence, you can feel it in your body in the way that you speak. But what's the part of your story that we do not see? The part of the story no one sees is the BTS, the behind the scenes, the challenges. Sometimes it's the fear, the doubts, it's the things that we tell ourselves in the moments that will eventually stifle us. And I think for me, I've had to overcome those moments. I've had to really sit in those moments and say to myself, well, this is not the end. This is not it. I have more to give. And I had to talk to myself. I had to sacrifice, because I think growing up in Waterhouse, dreaming is a luxury because we don't get to dream often when we're in an environment that seems stifling. It seems, just there's no way out. So dreaming becomes a luxury. So now you're in this moment where you're saying, okay, then you're chasing medals, you're chasing records, you're chasing growth, you're chasing excellence. But the behind the scenes that people are not seeing is the struggle that sometimes you'll have with your mind, because we all have that. People think that the champion mindset is just winning. It's not just winning. It's sticking to your purpose. It's really trusting the promise that you have already made to yourself and go for it. So, it's the moments I have to wake up at 5 a.m. to get to practice. It's the moment I have to sacrifice not going out because I'm chasing something big. I'm chasing impact. I'm chasing that young girl who was in Waterhouse who felt like there's no way out. I'm teaching the young girls in my community to understand that excellence does not just belong to me, it belongs to them. And it's important for them to understand those things. So when I sit with myself behind the scene, it's the motivation from my husband, it's my son, it's the moment when I feel okay, then the doubts are coming in and I have to really say to myself, come on, you can do it. Get out of it. Get out of it. One foot in front of the other, keep going. It's the injuries that we have to overcome as athletes and as individuals, because I think a lot of persons don't know that injuries don't just happen to athletes, it happens to everyday individuals. And you have to channel that intention in your mind to say, I can overcome. I've been there. It's the limitation that we tell ourselves when people say to us, oh, you're too old, or you're too young, or you've had enough. No more. It's those things that you're battling with behind the scenes. So when someone sees you stepping to the line, you have already conquered so many things behind the scenes. So when we step to the line to compete for a presentation, when we step to the line for a big job or a presentation or whatever it is, understand that the persons who are standing there would have had to overcome so many things to get there. Okay, you just said so many things that are wise and tactical. So I want to stop and hover here for a second. Dreaming is a luxury. Yeah. What would you say to the person right now who's listening who says, I feel like I can't even dream right now, that I can't imagine something that's possible? You talked about how you really want to be an example to the young girls that have big dreams, that have a sense of purpose, but maybe the world is telling them, oh, well, that's impossible. That's unrealistic. Somebody like you doesn't do something like that. What would you say to the person that's so just head down that they haven't even thought about the dream? That's a luxury. It's also a necessity. I think it is. I think what I will say is stop asking, can I stop asking for permission to be great? Stop asking people who have no idea what's going on or what dreams you're trying to chase or where you're coming from or where you're heading. You have to start paying attention and listening to your own voice. That's the only voice that's important, your voice. Because your voice is the most important voice in the room. That's the relationship. You want to focus on the relationship with your voice. The minute you change that relationship, you start to understand that, okay, this is what Shelley wants. This is what, Mel wants, and this is what you're going to chase. Stop focusing on the voices that are external. Those are just white noise. They're not important, right? Because they don't understand what it is to be in the moment chasing something that's great, chasing something that you want, that you have committed to, that you have decided to. A champion mindset doesn't mean that you're not going to fail. Failure is a part of success, right? So, you have to count on yourself. Channel the energy in the voice that is your own and focus on that voice. Whenever you step into a room, it's your voice that is important. I've heard you say that especially in reflecting about your career. Can you unpack the power of that statement? A lot can change in a year. 1 year of being intentional got me an Olympic gold medal. Just 1 year. Just 1 year. Just 1 year, because what you did in that year is you changed your outlook. You changed your approach. So a lot can happen in a year. I've seen athletes like myself go from being nobody to an extraordinary athlete. In 2007, I was at the World Championship in Osaka as a reserve. What does that mean? A reserve mean I came 6. I would be called upon if somebody got hurt or somebody didn't want to run. That's the only time they would call on me. I wasn't the number 1, the number 2, the number 3, or the number 4. I was number 6. It means there are 4 persons that run on a relay. I was 6. So the chances of me running in that relay were slim. A year after being in Osaka, the next year I was Olympic champion. So it's not just for me where 1 year I went from being 6th to being 1st, it belongs to you as well. So if you change your mindset, your outlook, and you say to yourself, okay, you have to recognize the power of consistency. 'Cause I think that's what changed the approach for me. I became consistent at the small things. I said, okay, I'm going back to training. I'm going to make sure that I show up at 5 a.m. because practice is at 5 a.m. I wasn't there at 5:30. I was there in the cold because I refuse. I refuse to lose. And you have to, that's the mindset. You have to refuse to lose. Somebody will need to drag you off the field. And I'm not just talking about the track. I'm talking in life. Somebody has to pull you out. They have to call the announcers and say, oh, take her out. But until then, you're staying in. So I've seen athletes take 1 year and be that year they were humbled in a year because they didn't put the work in. They changed their approach. So when I say a lot can happen in a year, it's the mindset that you become consistent at what you do and you work towards it because you now have a 1 whole year to decide what you're doing. Decide how you show up each morning. Put 1 foot in front of each other and then you go and you keep going and you going because for me there is time. A lot of persons say, oh, you have all the time in the world. And you think 1 year, for the person who is chasing mediocrity, 1 year is small. For the person who is chasing greatness, 1 year is a lot. You have a lot of time. And if you have that time, you make it count. So, I double you to put you in that moment in 2007 because even though most of us will never be a reserve on a team like that, right? We're going to be in the stands watching you. There is an experience that I think we all have in life where you find yourself in a situation where you are really close to the thing that you want, but you're kind of on the outside of it. And I'll share a quick story. I have my daughter is a singer-songwriter and she was invited to a record release kind of performance by an artist she really loves and she walked into the room and it was incredible. But when she left she had this feeling of saying I want to be doing that. I want to be known in a room like that. And those moments where you get close to the thing that you want. You're number 6. You want to be number 1, right? I think those moments really define you because you either collapse and say it's never going to be me or you rise. Yes. Or you rise and say it is painful to want something and not work for it. And it's painful to work for it and not get it, but I'm gonna go for it. And so what changed for you is you were number 6 and I take it nobody got injured and so you stayed number 6. I actually ran. You did? I did. I was. So let me tell you the story. I have to tell you this story. So in 2007 when I went to Osaka and I made the relay squad for Team Jamaica. My real intention of going to Osaka was just to be there small-minded. At that time my thinking was very small, my dreams were small, my confidence small. So I get there and there having all this fit about who runs or who doesn't run and I'm like and I hope they don't call on me, laughter. Because for me the weight of the moment was so big and mentally I think I wasn't prepared for a moment like this. So, I was just there for just being there. And I remember the coach calling and said, "Oh, you're running?" And I'm like, "I'm running." And he goes, "Yes, you're running." I cried because I didn't want to be responsible for any mishap in a relay. A relay depends on 3 other persons to take the baton home. I didn't want to be responsible for that. So, I cried. And I remember I ran the relay. Now I carried bottom home first in the heats, but I didn't run the finals. But you know what changed for me? What? I wanted to be responsible for my own win. That changed. I was responsible for 3 other people and I was in awe the moment. I was crippled in that moment and I said to myself, I want to stand on the line, and anything that I lose, it's mine to lose. Anything that I win, it's mine to win, and I want to own it within my entire being. And I went home from Osaka and I changed the way I ate. I started going gym. I became disciplined because I wanted to feel like I had the power and nobody else had that to choose. Because here I was in that moment running a 4x1 and they were debating if I should run or if I shouldn't, or if I was going to drop the baton, if I was going to be good, whatever. But in that moment, I wanted to make that decision for me. I wanted to make that decision when I stand at the line and I'm competing. If I win, it's for me. If I lose, it's for me. And those things are very important because nobody gets to take them away from you. Nobody. Oh, let's just let that sit for a minute, because a lot can change in a year. A lot can change in a year. What changed? The mindset changed. The can't. Clears throat, yeah, that's so real. Like I left going to a world championship thinking I wasn't worthy of being in that moment, to going to the Olympic Games a year later and being happy and content and knowing that I had the power to win, even though when I got there my dream was so small because I just wanted to make the finals. That was your dream for the Olympics. Like, okay, I'm going to make the finals. I'm going to make the finals. And that was my dream going into the Olympics. I was going to make the finals. And I remember, and this is why it's important, that the things that you say to yourself are good things. Be kind to yourself. When you talk to yourself, your energy should exude positive. It should be strength. It should be powerful. And I remember sitting in the room and I said to one of my teammates, if I win, I am going to do this. I'm going to jump. I'm going to scream. That was me already setting the stage for what's to come. So when I got there and I went to the line, I was happy to be there. That's an outlook that changed in a year, because this was a woman who didn't want to run the year before to a woman who was happy to be in that moment because I prepared for that moment. So when I say a lot can change in a year, I didn't go into that moment unprepared. I was prepared for everything and anyone. And I got to the line and I was happy. I was smiling. And I was content because I was about to run the race of my life. And I knew it. My body knew it. My mind knew it like I heard nobody else in that moment. And I got to that line. It was me against nobody. Because if you want it, you'll have to beat me for it. And I remember going to the line and the exact same thing I told myself couple days before I ran, that finals is the exact same thing I did after the finals. What did you say? I jumped. I screamed. I did so many things. I was on the floor. I couldn't contain myself. Well, I can't contain myself because I've never seen one of these in person. Yes. You brought because we asked you to. Yeah. Your medal. Yeah, that's my medal. In 2008, I became the first Caribbean woman to win an Olympic gold medal in the 100 meters. Holy smokes. I got this thing's heavy. Is it solid gold? I hope so. Laughter, wow. It's my retirement plan. This is incredible. What is that moment like, man? Does time slow down? Is it this out of this thing is really heavy? It is. I think that moment for me, Mel, was a moment that it told me that it didn't matter where you come from or how you start. It matters how you finish. It matters how you show up. Because here's a young girl who's from an inner city, a single parent, one room with two brothers and my mom. And it was hard to dream. It was hard to see beyond, your current, circumstances. The environment that you're in was hard to see beyond that. And when I crossed that line, it was not just a win for me. It was a win for a community. A community of girls who never thought they would see an Olympic champion coming from their community. It was a win for my mom who had me when she was 17. It was a win for my grandma who prayed for me the day I left to go to college because I wasn't supposed to go to that college. I was supposed to go overseas for school. And my grandmother, when I said to her, I remember saying to her, "Hey, I'm going to stay in Jamaica and I'm going to go to school at UTK." And she said, "Go." That was her only words, "Go." And I went. So for me, crossing that moment, it was a win, a huge win for me. Understanding that confidence, dreaming, and believing what you dream is very important. It's understanding that there's nothing wrong with fear, right? Nothing is wrong with it, but we show up in spite of. So, that's what that moment was for me. Wow. What do you want the person listening to know if they're telling themselves that it's too late or the dream is too big or it's too impossible for them? Now, Snorts, I think what I would say to you guys listening is time will honor your greatness. Time, that's all you need, time. For a lot of persons, they look at the clock and they think I don't have enough time. But for the persons who is chasing excellence and chasing growth, it's never too late when you look at the clock. It's never too late. I became the oldest world champion at 35 years old. When persons said, "Oh, she's too old. She needs to wrap it up." I became a mom and I won a world championship 2 years after having my son. Time will honor your greatness. I won my first gold medal in 2008 when persons thought I was too young or I was too inexperienced and I needed to give my spot to somebody else. So when I say all of that, I say time. You have time. You have to show up. Disregard the negative things that you have said in your darkest moments to yourself. You need to get that out. Stop listening to the people who have never been in your shoe. You have to start listening to your voice and decide which voice is more important. Theirs are yours. And it has to be yours. Your voice is the most important voice in any room. So you have to understand that whatever it is that you're chasing, time will honor your greatness. It's never too late. In fact, you still have so much more that is inside on top that's ready to go out, but you are listening to the persons who are at the ceiling of their imagination, not yours. I'm dead. Like I'm literally like, okay, laughter, we're done here. Like I can't even believe amazing you are. You're like channeling something. No, it's true. You are there is like a transmission coming through you. Yeah. It's the truth. I can tell. Yeah. I can tell in the way that you are speaking. Yeah. Straight from the heart and with almost like that. If you're not going to listen to yourself, you better listen to me. Yeah. Like borrow Shell's belief in you until you believe in you. That's true. You know what's important also is the only dream that hasn't been met is the one that you haven't started. Say that again. The only dream that hasn't been met is the one you haven't started. So once you have a dream, start it. You have all the time in the world. Start it. Don't go to bed thinking, "All right, I'm tired." It's not going to happen. Go to bed thinking, "It's going to happen. No one can stop me. I'm going to wake up in the morning. I'm gonna," all those thoughts, because we've all been there. In our darkest moments, we have told ourselves things that are not true. In our darkest moments, we have listened to people who have said things about us who have no idea who you are. Like, how do you allow people who don't know who you are, who don't know your gifts, your talents, who don't know what you're chasing and what untapped abilities you have? How can you allow them to determine your future? You can't. Right? The only finish line that you have never crossed is the one you never walked up to. So whatever finish line it is or anything that you're chasing, walk up to it. You know, it's interesting the finish line metaphor, because that's how you know the race you're running isn't over. You know, yeah, you haven't crossed the finish line yet. You, laughter, haven't crossed the finish line, so it's not over. And my coach always said, I remember my coach said, you cross the finish line, you get another chance. What does that mean? I've always gone to meets and I crossed the finish line and I didn't win and I thought, man, this is the end of the world. And my coach was like, no, it's another day. You get another opportunity. So, nothing is wrong with showing up and losing. You showed up and your approach the next time will be different. That's the power of getting to the line and finishing, because now you have something tangible to look at and evaluate and say, okay, let me change my approach. Which is just like traffic. We go to school in the morning and we drive on one route and we realize, okay, I spent 20 minutes in traffic. The next day you have knowledge now. So you change your approach just like you did in 2007 and you said, I'm going to change my approach. I got to get consistent. I got to train harder. I got to change the way I'm approaching this. Visualization is something that you use in your training. How do you use it and how can the person listening apply that same strategy to their life? So Mel, I give you on a Friday. Yes. When we train, we actually train our minds on a Friday. We call it mental training because before you can achieve anything, you have to see it in your mind first. You have to feel it. And visualization is you putting yourself in a winning position before you have one. That's what visualization is. Visualization is you seeing yourself doing it not perfectly but powerfully. That's what visualization is. So when I use visualization, it's important for me to even smell the atmosphere, okay, to feel it, because sometimes our mind can't distinguish between what reality is and what's real. We can't, right? We can't figure out what's real or what's fake when it comes to our mind because our mind is that powerful. So it is up to you to train your mind to see the things that you want to achieve. So when I get to the line, I have ran that race many times before I get to that line. And I'm not talking about the day before the race. I'm talking months before the race. Every time I have an alone time, I'm visualizing. I get to the line. I hear the starter. I listen to the cues. Do you hear all the people putting their feet in the box? I'm going to tell you this. When I'm at the line, I hear nobody. Nobody. Because I'm not listening to them. The only person I'm listening for is the instruction of the starter. When the starter says on your mark is something that I've already visualized. So my body knows when the starter says on your mark, it's go time. My body knows when I get to the line, I've already seen myself in the block. I see myself crossing the line. I see with each step that I take, I feel it because I've already seen it. So, you have to use visualization as a map. It's one of those, maps that you have in your mind. Okay, I'm going to point B. So, in order to get to point B, I have to make sure that I'm successful at A. Right? So, you're seeing it. You going to that presentation. You want to feel it. You want to see it. Visualization exists long before the vision board. Long before it. It's a small step. Visualization is something that you don't have to pay for. You don't need money for it. You don't need no paper. You don't need no pen. You need nothing. You just need to sit with yourself and see it. That presentation, that hard conversation, that relationship that you probably need to end, that friendship that you need to walk away from and you don't know how to do it in your mind first. It becomes easier after. I want to make sure you really heard what she said, that Fridays is not running day. It's not running day. Friday we are training a different muscle as a world champion. You're training your mind. And what I also love that you pointed out is this is free. It's free. Yeah, it is. And you're built to do it. You're built to do. We all have the power to visualize. So use it. Right. Because one thing I know about visualization is preparation. It's me preparing for the moment. If I get to the line and I have not even thought about running the race, then what purpose does that serve? Right? If you're going for the presentation and you're trying to get the promotion, if you haven't seen yourself in that position, what sense does it make? You have to see yourself that big job. You have to see yourself in it. You have to see yourself walking away like in your head. You're going like, alright, yeah, girl, you have this. You got this. So, when you have prepared, because that's what visualization is. It's a preparedness. You have prepared. So, I've seen the race over and over and over, and I run it over and over and over in my mind. So, when I get to the line, it's just go time. It's work time. It's eat time. It's time to eat. That's what happens in that moment because your body is already prepared. Yes. Your body knows what we're up against. I remember there's once when I went to a mental training on a Friday and it was hard at first. And visualization is practice. 'Cause it doesn't come easy the first time because I'm sitting there in the mental training and my coach is like, close your eyes. See yourself in the stadium. And I'm at KFC, laughter, and I'm drifting to the beach or somewhere and I have to find a cue to pull you back. You always should have a cue. What's your cue? My cue is always saying to myself that greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. Say that again. Greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. There is no fear in love. 'Cause perfect love casts out fear. Because with what you love, you cannot fear. And I love to run. I love to win. So I don't fear it. Instead, I get to the line. I'm confident and I'm ready because I've seen it. This is my moment. This is my passion. This is the sometimes your promises that you have, that's your purpose. Your purpose is the promises that you have already set for yourself. So when I get there, I've already prepared to be in that moment. So when I stand at the line and I feel like, okay, I'm drifting because now I'm focusing on who's beside me. I'm focusing on the crowd. What's the crowd going to do? They can't help me. What's the next person? They also want to win. So, I'm not helping you win. I'm helping me win. Oh, I love that. When you focus on them, you're helping them win. You're helping them win. I don't want them to win. Can we unpack that for a minute? Because so many of us are focused on what everybody else is doing. And when you do that, you're helping them win. You are helping them win. You're not helping yourself win. Because I'm telling you, they are probably focused on you and you're giving your power to them. Like, I'm giving you no power. But when I get to the line, I'm an assassin. I'm there to win. And it means mentally I'm there to win as well. So when I get to the line, I'm not concerned who is in lane 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 1 or 2. The reality is which is the I. In that moment, the I becomes selfish. It's about you and how you show up to win. If I'm there carrying somebody else's baggage, how am I getting to the plane? The plane is going to leave you. So yeah, don't focus on who is to the left or to the right because you're not going to the left and you're not going to the right. You're going forward because that's the only way you win. I've never seen anybody win going backwards. I've never seen it. If it happens, let me know. But I've never seen it. How do you use somebody that is ahead of you to help you become a better competitor or a better mom or a better this? Because I do think that there are those times, and this kind of goes back to when you were number 6 and then you got asked to be part of the team and then you had the realization that wait, I want to win or lose for me. I want to stand on my own here. If I'm not paying attention to this person, I'm not paying attention to that person, but I keep seeing somebody else out in the world doing something in a way that kind of makes me jealous, kind of pisses me off, and also kind of inspires me. How do you use somebody else's example in the right way to activate your own ability to perform potentially past them? You know what I'm saying? I understand exactly what you're saying, and that's good because guess what? Every single person there is in this lifetime have learned something from somebody, whether they're a winner or they're not. The champion uses every experience to gain an advantage. That's just the reality. In Jamaica there's a saying that when somebody feeds you meat or chicken, you eat the meat, you leave the bone. It's not the bone is not going to help you. The meat is where the substance is. So if that person that's in front of you that you think I want to emulate that person, there's something that she has that I want, take the meat, leave the bone. Whatever it is that she has that benefits you and you think you can use it, use it. For a lot of us, we are in a shell where there's somebody that we're either jealous of or somebody that some people would say, I hate this person. But guess what? That person that you're jealous of, or probably the person that you hate, there's something that they have that you want. So instead of hating for no reason, take the things that they have that are going to help you to get to your destiny sooner than later. So your friend Usain Bolt said that when he looks at your career and the fact that you have been so great for so long that you make him feel like an underachiever. What can the person listening learn from you about holding yourself to such a high standard, especially on those days when you don't feel like it? Here's what I'll say. Motivation can change. Standards don't. Oh, motivation can change. But standards don't. 'Cause standard is what is who you are. Is what you have. Because sometimes your motivation will change. You know what motivates you today may not be the thing that motivates you tomorrow. But your standards are who you are. It's everything. It's, who I am is not determined by how I feel on any given day, right? So for me, that's your standard. You have to make sure that you hold your standards on days when it's hard because you know you're building something unbreakable. That's what your standard. And you're saying if Usain says that, it's coming. You're saying he's great in his own way, right? But for me personally, it's my standards that gives me longevity. It's the things that I hold dear to me, the things that I'm chasing and I want to achieve. And I know I have it, right? So I understand that on a daily basis, your motivation can change because some of us are motivated by probably somebody who wronged us. And what if you move that person out of the way? What motivates you then? You can't have your motivation be tied to a person because that person for whatever at work can leave. They can't change. They go somewhere else. So you have to have your standards. Some days I go to training. I don't want to train. There's no motivation. But you know what? I have standards, high standards. So every time I get to training, I remember the standards that I have. My standards are excellence. I want excellence. How does one achieve excellence? Consistency. Show up in spite of. How does one have standards? They move from a place of fear to boldness. Discipline is a resident, right? It residential. No, it's not. It's there. It resides there. That's what discipline is. That's the standard. Motivation comes and goes. It sure does. Comes and goes. I'm wondering because it's so inspiring to listen to you and there's such a rhythm and truth to everything that you're sharing and it's easy especially and even if you're in a place where you're just feeling a little beaten down and stuck and as I'm listening I'm like, yes, standards. Yes, excellence. Yes, I'm with you. And then I go, it's true. What are my standards? What does excellence mean in my life? And I'd be curious if somebody is feeling really knocked down and I have a lot of friends that I've heard them say over the years, I don't even know who I am anymore. Do you have any recommendation for how you could set a standard for yourself today that will pull you toward excellence? It's like, is there something that if you had to recommend, okay, if you don't know what your standards are, if you feel like life has kicked you down, one way to develop standards for yourself, because if you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing at all, but is there something that you could give the person that's listening, like this is where I would start if I were starting over and thinking about my own standards? Yeah, I would say small steps. Small steps. It doesn't have to be big. Everybody has to start with small intentional steps. The smaller steps you make, the more you can go to the bigger steps eventually because you're not rushing into it. Because for a lot of us finding our standards take time because I can tell you this, we have history where because we have done things a particular way for years, trying to erode those things takes time, right? It takes time to get rid of the bad habits, so I would say start with the small things. If it is getting up early in the morning and making your bed, then that's the standard. I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to make my bed. I'm going to have some coffee. I'm going to visualize for 20 minutes. And that's how you start with your standards, right? You write that down. And then who knows, a week from that you add something else to it. And that becomes a routine. And when you have your routine, your routine becomes consistent. So you're consistent with your routines and you're consistent with your standard. So small steps doesn't have to be big. It has to be yours. Can't be anybody else's. It has to be yours. So I don't want my standards for you. Sure, you can use me. I'm going to eat the meat but not the bone. See, I'm listening. You're eating the meat, laughter, but you're not. You're leaving the bone. And you apply that to your life and you say, okay, these are my stand, and I can say this, your standards are yours. You can't let or allow anyone else to make you think that something is wrong with yours. There's nothing wrong, because guess what, yours work for you, mine works for me, but it's intentional steps that you take daily, and you start small. Doesn't have to be that big grand. Okay, I'm going to get up. It's almost like the New Year resolution. I'm not a big fan of New Year resolution, right? I'm being honest, because I think sometimes I make those because everybody else is making them, and it doesn't work for me, because by the time the 2nd of January come, I remember nothing. So, you have to make or tailor your standards to you, to your day-to-day, to what you can start with, and then you move from there. You know, one of the things that I think we've all seen and some of us have experienced is how easy it is to let your failures block you. Whether it's a failed relationship or a failed dream that you tried, or maybe you failed at the career or job that you really went for. What has losing and failure taught you that winning never could? Mel, in my years of competing, I like to consider myself an expert at track and I expert at losing because I lost a lot. But failure introduces us to our part of ourselves that we didn't know was there. The part that we need to grow, the part that we need to approach different. Failure introduces us to things that winning couldn't show us. Because when you win, you think you have it all figured out. You think, all right, I won. I don't need to change anything. I'm good. But failure can introduce you to a part that you realize that, okay, then my success didn't show me that. But my failure taught me that, hey girl, we need to work at this a little bit more. There's another approach. We can try another way. We can go through this gate and we'll end up at the same place. That's what failure does. For me, some of my greatest wins came after a loss. Really? Yes. Some of my greatest win came after a loss. Remember, I came 6th at the World Championship, National Championship at Mayatet in Jamaica. And I went back home and I worked hard and I came back. In 2016, I had a sesamoides. You had a so there are 2 small bones. I'm not a doctor. That sounds terrible. A sesamitis. What is that? Like, laughter, I had there's 2 small bones under your great toe that's responsible to under your big toe, or your great toe that's responsible for balance. Oh no. Right. What happened? So that's where when you're in the blocks or you're running, that becomes the planting that's responsible for the power that you generate. That's a very important little bone. Very important little bone. Laughter, and I fractured it and I couldn't put my foot in my spike. What? I was in tears. This is 2016 Olympic Games. I was chasing becoming the first woman to win 3 Olympic Games back to back. No, I did not know who I was in that moment, because it was so hard, because at that point I won 2008, 2009, 2012, 2013, 2015, and here my face with 2016, and I'm saying to myself, how do I navigate this space? I didn't know how.